We're coming off a weekend where Antifa, the Proud Boys, and Portland were the top trends on Twitter in the United States. Donald Trump had tweeted about Antifa being an organization of terror. And I want to just make sure there's one thing that's really clear. When I refer to Antifa, I'm typically trying to call out specifically branded cells. Okay, these are groups that have unique names, have top-down organizations. They claim they do. I know many of these people. Whether or not they recognize it, these groups fall into hierarchies. Someone's in charge because they're more aggressive than someone else. That's how it always happens. You know, humans didn't just write down one day, hey, hierarchy should exist. No, it does. So we have this weekend with a lot of violence. We see all these hit pieces on, the Proud Boys. The Proud Boys showed up, did nothing, and left. Antifa went, started beating on people. And then I saw this story. TV reporter is knocked out live on air at a feminist rally calling for stronger rape laws in Mexico. I'll just give you the quick breakdown, just not to bury the lead. There's a reporter wearing a suit, apparently saying people believe these women, and that a male feminist punches him in the face, knocking him out. Sucker punch from behind. He does a hook, boom, into the guy's face. Journalist goes down. TV reporter, I should say. I think the feminist got mad, but a lot of these. So this guy was reportedly a male feminist, and the feminist women at the rally were harassing the journalist too, pulling at his clothes, throwing things at him, screaming at him, and then this guy comes up and hits him. I think after hitting him, the feminist got mad at the guy. But let's read the story. It's crazy, man. Look, you can see in the video there's some like black bloc type people that are hitting him too, and so he's like, I'm gonna get out of here. And then one guy comes up and knocks him out. But I just gotta say, people don't seem to understand when I talk about the concept of a civil war, okay? Again, not talking about like 50 million people marching through the streets in uniform. I'm talking about these things escalating and social cohesion breaking down to the point where people can't live normal lives. Right, I'm talking about one or two people who might go out and commit a shooting, like we just saw. And that's what I said was going to happen a while ago. Some kind of insurgency will emerge where we will see people do these low-level things. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not saying I can guarantee. I'm just trying to tone down what people expect when they think of this idea. But the reason I bring this up is looking at this story. It's happening everywhere. We see this stuff in the UK. We see it in Europe. We're now seeing it in Mexico. I think this has a lot to do with the internet. I really do. So let's do this. Let's read. They say, a violent thug punched a news anchor in the face halfway through his report on an aggressive feminist glitter protest, as women called for stronger sexual offense laws in Mexico on Friday. Juan Manuel Jimenez, a news anchor for the TV network ADM 40, fell to the ground after a protester slammed his fist into the journalist's face as he reported on the rally in Mexico City. Demonstrations began after two teenage girls accused police officers of rape. Some 500 women took to the streets on Friday in what has been dubbed a glitter protest. The city's police chief was doused in pink glitter, and protesters threw the glitter into the air as they called for a change to sexual offense laws. So I'm going to try and keep the volume down. I'm going to play this. It's a short clip. It's about 30 seconds. So right now, you can see this guy's coughing, and it looks like there's some Antifa people. That Antifa type person attacked him. A woman yells into his microphone. So he's getting harassed by everybody already. And now here it is. A man walked up, stood by his side, and punched him square in the jaw. Now here's the thing. People are it blocks the view. I'm trying to make sure it doesn't jump to the next video. But you can see a bunch of people start spraying the guy who attacked the journalist with something. So it's clear that he crossed the line. Even the protesters don't like it. However, this journalist was being harassed already. So look, man, it's really strange to me that you see these people on Twitter act like far-left violence is not a problem simply because they call themselves anti-violence. That makes no sense. It makes literally. You can't just say, I'm anti-fascist, therefore anybody who opposes me is a fascist. But people buy it. They believe it. And you see these people, on Twitter tweeting about it like, doesn't it mean anti-fascist? It's like, apparently you don't read. And that's really the problem. So I tweeted about this. There's a graphic, and I mentioned this a couple days ago. The left only gets their news from left-wing sources. Left-wing sources hire left-wing activists, and they're in their own weird little world. Like, imagine you have a group of people, moderates and conservatives, who are arguing with each other about various news sources, and they're showing them to each other, including left and right-wing sources. And the left is over there only, talking to themselves. And this is what you get. People saying like, oh, but Antifa's not that bad. Right. Antifa as a catch-all term for the black bloc far left violence, something needs to be done about that. Antifa as in branded cells is something that, so I'll try to be more specific moving forward. When I mention branded cells, I often say there are branded cells. Like, and what I mean by that is they have names. They call themselves like, X group, right? I don't want to start a war with any of these groups, so I'm going to avoid saying their names for the most part, but they exist. So here we have a story from Mexico. Look, man, how many journalists have been knocked out, beaten at a right-wing rally? And I'm not saying it hasn't happened. We see all this stuff about Trump supporters. And what people don't seem to realize on the left, because they don't read news, they don't read news outside their bubble, Trump rallies are just like boisterous hooting and hollering, like a frat party. People going like, woo, 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 like that's what it is. Yelling, Trump, Trump, right? The right-wing rallies on the streets are very different. Trump supporters, what's the worst thing we saw? Some woman flicked off Jim Acosta, and he was like, harumph, I say. Oh, well, I never. And this guy walking around at a feminist rally in Mexico gets punched in the face, knocked down. I don't know who this guy is. Andy No. Man, they are out for Andy No. They beat the crap out of that guy, put him in the hospital. And because they screwed up and know it, they are trying everything in their power to smear this guy. So let's read this. But I held off to do this call, but I got to do it. Before we move on, go to timcast.com/donate. If you want to support my work, there's a PayPal option, a crypto option, a physical address. The best thing you can do is share this video because, listen, it's actually, I'll point this out too. It fits what I'm trying to talk about. I've been tagged in a ton of Facebook posts when, as I've been saying, like, share this video because my content is deranked. There's another important reason to share this video, if you like it. If you think I'm good at what I do, if you think I'm terrible, give me a downvote. Just tell me I'm awful. But how do we break people out of these bubbles and share stories like this so that they watch it? Now, it's really hard because a lot of these people, I'm seeing these posts on Facebook because you guys tag me when you post it. And then I see the arguments ensue, and it's kind of funny. I don't really spend too much of my time reading through Facebook arguments, but there was like one I saw where like three guys were arguing, and one guy refused to watch the video in which I cite credible sources certified by NewsGuard and walked back some of the more egregious claims made by certain factions. Right? That's what I do. Milquetoast fence sitter, right? But this guy refuses to watch it. And so I don't know how you solve that problem. When someone says, I'm smarter than this guy, I refuse to listen to what he has to say. Well, we got a problem. One of the things I talk about, what brought me to where I am as kind of a moderate, was that I realized at a certain point when I was like 18, if I don't listen to people, I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm not going to rehash the whole story, but this right here is a really good example. How many of your friends know that this happened? Right? I just found out this happened, and this happened on Friday, that a journalist who was saying things like people believe these women, like he's not arguing with them, he's just reporting, and he gets harassed by protesters. He gets physically attacked by someone in Black Bloc who looks kind of like an Antifa protester, and then this guy walks up and just clocks him, knocking him out. How many of your friends know about this? Did you know about it? If you know about it because you watch me, then I'll just point out your left-wing friends and family won't know about it. They won't. So I don't know how we solve that problem. I really don't. But I gotta say, man, I think we're reaching some kind of, I don't know, climax, apex. And I know there are people who say things like they don't think it's possible and I'm overreacting. What people don't seem to realize is that it's not about a group of people in uniform marching down the street. It's not about a militia. It's about, can we exist in society? Can I go to the store and buy a soda? That's the question. Can a reporter for the Wall Street Journal go out into the street and take pictures? That's the question. So when you have someone like Andy No and all of the hit pieces popping up against him, the polarization is becoming ridiculously extreme. And it's getting to the point where business is becoming extremely difficult between individuals. And not only that. And I should stress, by extremely difficult, I don't mean like people are struggling to go to Walmart and 7-Eleven. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like, we see people getting banned from social networks. People can't conduct, bank accounts getting shut down. Yeah, things are getting weird. But not only that, like how many people, okay, let me start over. I was on OkCupid the other day. I made a video, I was kind of joking about this. And I was just like browsing through, and I did this not because I'm looking for any particular date or anything. I did it because OkCupid tweeted out a clapping, meme thing where they were like, women don't want chocolates and flowers, they want reproductive rights or something. And I'm like, that's great, OkCupid, but there's actually a lot of women who think life rights are reproductive rights, and it's like, you can find women on OkCupid who are pro-life. But I got to thinking, is OkCupid saying this because they have the data, or is it just some 22-year-old social media manager? It may be because they have the data, I don't know. But I'm looking through all these profiles of all these women, and I'm seeing that invariably, and I did like zip code searches, and I was looking at the questions. Communism is good. That's overwhelmingly think communism is good, and the taking extremist positions. Capitalism is bad. Communism is good. And I'm thinking, there was an article I read from OkCupid where they said politics is becoming extremely important. It is. So I take a look at some of these questions, right? And look, man, there's literally there's no date I could have with a communist. And I bet you guys understand what I'm saying. I could be friends with a communist. I really don't see how somebody who is a overt communist in support of street violence like this against this journalist is going to get along with me. When I say things like freedom, liberty, equal rights, they're going to be like, well, I agree with the equal rights, but actually, no, they'll probably push back and say, well, equity. That's what they'll say. This is like, this divide is becoming extremely apparent. And I saw a poll earlier on Twitter, and we see the same poll all the time, that millennial women are are almost 70% Democrat. 70%. And then you have like 45% of guys who are Democrat, 45% who are Republican, and then about 10% who are independent or moderate. And I'm thinking, like, the polarization is hitting us between gender lines, between racial lines. It's making things impossible. And that's why I can only imagine a breakdown. I don't think we're going to see people walking around in uniforms with guns for the most part. We have militias, I get it. We have Redneck Revolt, we've got the Three Percenters. They exist on both sides. I think the bigger issue is that people are going to stop dating, or they're like not. Okay. I need to stress this point for people who don't get this, because this is the big question everyone says. But Tim, it's only like 10% of people doing this, and it's like, dude, how many people wanted a revolution in the United States? What was it, like 30% or something? And most people said leave us out of it, and then like 20-something% said no revolution. It doesn't take that many people to destabilize things. And let me give you a better example. 100 people can build a machine. One person can throw a wrench in the gears and break the whole thing. Another example I give people is, how many people live in the New York Metro? Okay, what, 13 million? Let's do Manhattan, which I believe is 2.5 million. 2.5 million people live in Manhattan and work. And live. What percent of them would completely shut down Manhattan? I don't know, 1,000 people blocking a highway? Which has happened. And it jams up a huge portion. So maybe not 1,000. 20,000? A ridiculously small percentage of the people who actually are in Manhattan need only stand up and block certain intersections. In fact, you could take 2 people at every intersection in New York and have probably only 1,000 or so people, if that. I don't know. There's probably a lot of intersections. But let's say you have a couple thousand people, and they each tried 2 people to block an intersection, jamming all traffic in the city. That would shut the city down, and the police would have almost no way to quickly go through and remove all of these people. Now imagine if you had 20,000 people. Imagine if you had 100 people at each intersection. Literally nothing the cops can do. Literally nothing. Because the police force in Manhattan, I think, is what, like an active 8,000 or something? I could be wrong, but the point I'm trying to make is, with 2.5 million people, if 10%, just 10%, 250,000, went out, that city would be flooded. It's done. There's nothing the police force can do. I don't know the exact numbers. There might be something like 30,000 active, but not on duty because they do 3 shifts. It's been a while since I got all the numbers. But think about, as our society grows, as our population expands, you need an ever smaller percentage of the population to disrupt everything. That's what I'm worried about. This stuff, it's one guy. But these protests will pop up and disrupt. Look, a protest of 10 people can disrupt a town of 100. A protest of 10 people can disrupt a town of 1,000. A protest of 10 people can disrupt a town of 10,000. You see the point I'm trying to make? Because blocking an intersection or shutting down infrastructure is easy for one person to do. It's difficult for the whole system to function properly. So when we start seeing these societal breakdowns, like men and women being politically divided, like because of gender, or for whatever reason, there's an ideology drift between the biological sexes. When we see the New York Times had a quiz where they ask you, what are you black, Hispanic, or Asian? And if you click yes, it shoots you over to Democrat. And they say with dangerous polarization. That's what I'm talking about. So I know I kind of went off on a tangent on this one, because the news here is simple, right? Dude gets knocked out, didn't do anything. But listen, it may not be that there's an increasing number of people being disruptive. We know that violence is going down. But the media and the press are creating a thick social tension that is palpable. Absolutely palpable. I have to take my security ridiculously seriously. But many people do now, right? When you hear Ben Shapiro has security because of the threats he gets, you're like, yeah, but Ben Shapiro's got millions of followers. Makes sense, right? But now we have people who have small Twitter accounts, who have only a few thousand followers who are dealing with the same thing. I think the internet has caused this. It's like, society evolved over time based on the spread of information and the adoption of new ideology. But social media is allowing it to move so rapidly that the left was caught on a hook and shot straight to the left. Yes, the data shows that. I won't pull it up. I pulled it up a million times. And the right and the center are kind of where they are. And that's the poll was so quick, it ripped the left off of social cohesion. And now we're seeing this. There was also something that was posted to Twitter I saw earlier that said since 2016, swear words from politicians has skyrocketed where it almost was non-existent before. And I think that isn't necessarily because of Trump, but I think Trump inflames it. Something happened before Trump. Something happened in 2016. I don't know what it is, but I don't think Trump is the cause of it. Something caused Trump. And I can't tell you. It might be political correctness. It might be the culture war. I know a lot of young men who told me on the campaign trail they were voting for Trump because he was anti-PC. That may be the issue. And so you get a big surge of people saying they'd rather have Trump. It could be the Bernie or bust. Something happened. And things are changing in a way that I'm growing ever concerned that, look, I had to go to the police department by my house and let them know, like, here are the threats I get, and here's what you need to expect. And they were like, we get it. Yep. Why did I have to do that? Is that a normal? Maybe it's normal. Maybe people did that back in the day. I have no idea. I know I have a lot of followers, right? That's the point. It's not random. But how do we get to a point where I genuinely have fear that someone's going to show up to my house because they do it all the time? When you look at what's going on with swatting and all this stuff, people who have like small followings and people who aren't even famous get harassed, doxxed, swatted. Yeah, things are going nuts. It's like there's so many people who can't engage in the digital economy because, look, man, I've been doxxed. Yeah, whatever, don't care. But there are people who have like 10,000 followers who are harassed and doxxed relentlessly, and I'm like, damn, that's crazy. I went to a skate park to skate once. And because of a smear from Antifa, these people started threatening me. They posted a picture of my mom. But I get it, right? I have a ton of followers. So that makes sense. People who are public figures, things like this happens. That's why you don't hear me complaining about it all the time. But I will extrapolate from that and say, if we're getting to a point where a journalist is going to get knocked out and harassed by protesters, people are viewing each other as the enemy. Tribalism is expanding to absurd degrees, falling on gender lines, on racial lines. This is the breakdown of social cohesion. It's literally I view society as kind of like it's a wave, right? We're all interlinked by different things, but things are being digitized into blocks that don't connect anymore. And that means when two tribes clash, this guy didn't realize it. And I think it's funny when people tell me everything's fine. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. How much violence have we seen? These rallies are getting bigger. People are getting riled up and angry. The internet is driving them insane. And all it takes is a couple hundred people to cause the chaos. I'm done. I'll leave it there. This is a long video. Stick around. Next segment will be at 1 p.m. on this channel, and I will see you all there.